Welcome to the Dr. Doug Show, your resource for bone health, hormone optimization, and women's health span through midlife and beyond. So this is going to be a fun conversation. So this is my 2024 top 3 supplements for osteoporosis update. So if you haven't already watched the video I did talking about my recent recommendations and how they changed on calcium, I would pause this and go watch that one first. It's a little long, I know, I'm sorry. But I'm going to talk about sort of the then follow-up to that, which is how we've changed our supplement stack for our osteoporosis patients based off of that deep research and the outcome as a result of that. So I'm going to go through 3 products today. I'm going to talk about what's in them, why we like what's in them, and then we're going to talk about, again, as we did in that video, an exciting opportunity for listeners of this podcast and watchers on this YouTube channel. So stick around till the end. All right, so the first product I want to talk about is the outcome of that calcium video that I was just talking about. So the calcium video was really going through how I went from microcrystalline hydroxyapatite complex formulations of calcium and how I've changed my thought and my practice to start using algae-based forms of calcium. And I go through all of that in that video, so I won't review that here. But the product that I want to talk about is this AlgaCal Plus. Again, in that video, we talked about why I think the calcium coming from a whole food source is the best. I think those 2 sources, ground up bones or algae, are going to be your 2 best sources of calcium, better than calcium carbonate, better than calcium citrate. But I'm leaning now to the algae because of what's in the products. And so the algae is going to be different from the ground up bones because the algae is going to have other micronutrients in it. And what I'm finding is that people respond better to these natural accumulations of micronutrients. Now, ground up bones have some other interesting things in them, but they have to be processed appropriately. And I think a lot of times the MCHC is just the calcium part of it, which is still better than calcium carbonate. But having the other nutrients in it, the other micronutrients like the algae does, is going to reduce really capsule fatigue, because if we're using the MCHC products, we start stacking more and more things. What you're going to see is this combination of 3 supplements is going to help to put a lot of things in as few capsules as possible. So the AlgaCal Plus, obviously the first thing that's in it is the algae. So the algae is going to have calcium as well as several micronutrients. So I'm just going to go through that list with you here. All right, so I've got the list right here in front of me. So I'm going to go through all the micronutrients that are in the algae in addition to the calcium. So if you look at the on their website, this is all available, but you have potassium, copper, and really these are trace minerals, so these aren't big doses of any of these. Potassium, copper, manganese, silicone, nickel, phosphorus, selenium, vanadium, and zinc. And what I like about it in this form is that they're coming together as they do naturally, and I think your body understands what to do with that better than it would if you were to try to like massive dose some of these things. Additionally, as I talked about in that calcium video, AlgaCal has gone through the extra step to do the studies to look and see what formulations of additional things might also benefit bone mineral density. So in that video, the second publication I talk about has 3 different formulations of algae. And so what they found is that if they added some more magnesium, so there's additional magnesium added to this, they also added more vitamin D. So they had different levels of vitamin D and different plans in that study. And this amount of vitamin D, 1600 IU, seemed to be the sweet spot in those studies. Additionally, they added more vitamin K. So they have K2 as MK7 in a great form. So they use this proprietary Vital MK7, which is a great product, and added 100 micrograms of the MK7 to this product. And then they added 3 milligrams of boron as boron glycinate. So it's a chelated form, which is really well absorbed. And then there's just a little bit of vitamin C to go along with that. And so this combination of stuff, if you were to try to build that from a bunch of different products, you'd have a whole lot of capsules. And so the AlgaCal Plus is going to be 2 capsules twice a day if you're going to get a full dose of all of that. And I think that is just so much easier to take for most people than is stacking a whole bunch of different things. People ask me often about the amount of calcium that's in it. So I'll just address that here, which is when you look on the website, you can see that it says that there's 720 milligrams of calcium. Now, in the past, you've probably heard me talk about, trying to minimize the calcium based off of the research. What I talk about in that other video is a really important point here is that if you're getting calcium through whole food sources, that risk seems to go away. And so there was a big study that looked at the quintiles of calcium consumption. And when people were getting it mostly through food, the risk of heart disease actually went down. So I think if we're getting it from food or from algae sources like this, we probably don't need to be as concerned about that overall calcium number. And remembering too that the upward limit of normal, or upward limit of safety rather, is 2,400 milligrams. So even if you're eating, 1,000, 1,200 milligrams of calcium through diet, if you're adding 720 as a plant product, then you probably don't need to worry about, where you're getting to with that calcium. I think this amount of calcium is fine because your body, again, is going to know what to do with it because it's coming with vitamin D, vitamin K, and other micronutrients. And I kind of came to this conclusion because when I have patients that love eating dairy, for example, especially if they're eating, good dairy, raw dairy, full fat, and they say, hey, I'm consuming, 1,500 milligrams of calcium through dairy. Do I tell them to stop eating that much dairy? Not usually, not unless it's inflammatory to them or they're gaining a lot of weight. So I think that this should be in that same boat to say, well, if you're getting this much from calcium, this is also how you're getting all of your other micronutrients. So I don't think that we need to worry about this much calcium as long as we're not eating, 2,000 milligrams of calcium in diet, which is really, really hard to do. So another point I want to make here, talking about AlgaCal Plus versus other products, is the amount of vitamin D that's in it. So one of the things we found looking at a whole lot of biomarkers in our patients is that when people are consuming big doses of vitamin D, and I used to recommend this, so this is definitely a pivot too, but when people are on 5,000 IU, 10,000 IU, we see people taking really, really big doses of vitamin D, and it'll drive their blood levels north of 100 without a doubt. We kind of have this feeling that, more is better and you can't overdo vitamin D, and that you just, don't worry about people that are saying it goes too high. The truth is, I'm not as worried about the calcium disturbance and the potential kidney stones and high levels of calcium that you could potentially see in blood with high D. That's not really my concern here, although that's real. Additionally, vitamin D as a supplement is coming in the form of cholecalciferol, and we call it D3, but it's not really D3. And so it's different than if you were to make it naturally. So we encourage people to make as much naturally as possible and to reduce the amount that they're actually supplementing. I don't think that you should come off of vitamin D necessarily, because we do need D to help to utilize the calcium appropriately, and there's other benefits of not being vitamin D deficient. But what's happening is we've gone from this vitamin D deficiency state of people with blood levels of 30, less than 20, to now people are driving it up to over 100, and I think we've overshot that sweet spot. So I like that this product only has 1,600 IU of vitamin D, and it doesn't have 5,000 like a lot of other products have. K2 I mentioned earlier. So K2 is MK7 is my preferred form of K2. We're going to talk about another product in a minute, but K2 is MK7 is the form that is not K1, so it has no impact on blood clotting. K2 does not have that impact at all, and MK7 has a longer half-life. So now you have a safe-to-take fat-soluble vitamin with a longer half-life that you only have to dose twice a day, which is what they do in this product. And then will help to improve the way that vitamin D functions and the way that calcium is distributed. So it has been shown to actually even reverse calcification, although I think it's a little early to say that it can reverse heart disease, but it looks really promising that it can have a good impact for sure. Boron is a really interesting mineral. So boron is added at the 3 milligram dose, which I think is a great dose, because boron is going to have a direct impact on bone growth. And we see a lot of people that get better with boron as a standalone supplement. And so adding it in with all these other micronutrients, I think is a great idea. Vitamin C is good for collagen development. It's good for bone growth. It's good for immunity. This is a pretty low dose, but I don't like actually supplementing vitamin C that much because I think big doses are unnecessary, because we can get vitamin C pretty easily through diet. So those are all the things that they added to it. And that's why I think that AlgaCal Plus is now on our list of the top 3. If we were going to say, hey, I need to take 3 supplements, that's it for osteoporosis, what 3 would it be? That's probably number 1, biggest bang for your buck. All right, so then number 2 is going to be also from AlgaCal. So this is going to be this AlgaCal D3 Complete. And so let me just address the question, which is this an AlgaCal sponsored video? The answer is no, they did not pay me to do this. We do have a relationship with AlgaCal, and if you look in the description below, you will see that we have a partnership. You can get a 10% discount by using the code that's in the video description. Or if you are on, if you're listening to this on a podcast, you should be able to find that on our website as well. But that 10% discount is representative of our partnership. They're not paying for this video. But the reason why I'm partnering with them again is because we have, thousands and thousands of people that are looking for how to improve their bone health, and they don't have a lot of resources. And so they're trying to find the best bang for their buck. And that's what I'm talking about here. So then this next product, this AlgaCal D3 Complete. So this is similar to a product I've talked about before. And basically the D3 Complete is going to be all of your fat soluble vitamins in one place. So that's your D, your A, your E, and your K. So the amount of D that's in the D3 Complete, again, is less than what you'll find in some other products. So there's a lot of products out there that'll have a combination of definitely D and K. There aren't that many that have D, A, E, and K in good forms, but there are a few. But if you look at those, you'll find that the amount of D that's in them is actually pretty stinking high. So again, you start stacking too many Ds, you're just going to have too much vitamin D in your stack. All right, so how much D is in this? Well, it's D3 or cholecalciferol, and it's another 1,000 IU. So you combine this with AlgaCal Plus and you get 2,600. So for somebody who has osteoporosis, I'm going to kind of push as far north as I'm comfortable, and that's about as far as I want to go with vitamin D supplementation. There is a lot of variation from person to person, so some people might need more, but overall, this is a really good starting point that I can feel good about, even without testing for D, because I don't think we're going to drive anybody too high with 2,600 IU. So I like that you can combine these two and you can get that much vitamin D. I think that's pretty great. The second part of this is the vitamin A. So they have vitamin A at 550 micrograms, and that's as retinol palmitate. So I have a whole video on vitamin A. I think it's something like this vitamin causes osteoporosis or something like that. The controversy around vitamin A is that there is a U-shaped curve when it comes to the risk of osteoporosis with vitamin A. If you don't have enough, increased risk. If you have too much, increased risk. But what most people don't understand is that most people are deficient, especially if you're not eating animal products. To get adequate vitamin A, you really need to eat not just animal meat, but you also need to eat animal organs. And so there aren't a lot of people that are eating a lot of organ meat out there. If you're eating a lot of organs, maybe you could get too much vitamin A, but I still think it would be pretty hard to do unless you're eating polar bear liver. That's like the magic vitamin A machine. But 550 micrograms of retinol palmitate is about 2/3 of your daily allotment of vitamin A as recommended. The challenge with other forms of vitamin A, particularly the beta carotenes, is that there is variable absorption and conversion from that storage form or pre-shaped form to the actual active form in retinol. And so plant products have beta carotenes. Some people will say, oh, well, I can get all the vitamin A from my plants, my carrots and my yellow and orange veggies, but you would have to consume a whole lot of them and be able to absorb them well and be able to convert them well to actually get the amount of vitamin A that you need. So I think that most people are vitamin A deficient. That's why I like to add that to our supplement stacks. And then there's the vitamin E. Now, vitamin E is kind of a controversial topic because if you look in the past, there are some studies that would show that vitamin E has the potential to be harmful. But if you look at those studies and if you understand the genetics around vitamin E, you know that in those studies, they gave alpha tocopherol alone. Alpha tocopherol in large doses can be inflammatory for some people that have a specific genetic variation. And so what we find is that if you give big doses of that, some people don't do well. It's about half the population. That's why those studies showed that some studies showed that there was increased risk. Some showed that there was decreased risk. It's because they were genetically different. So the recommendation that I've had for a long time is that we need all of the subgroups of vitamin E. There are 4 tocopherols and there are 4 tocotrienols. We need all of the tocopherols. We need all of the tocotrienols. Specifically, there's been some research presented, some very popular research around gamma tocopherol. So this product has D-alpha tocopherol at a not too big dose. It has gamma tocopherol at a 25 milligram dose, and it has mixed tocotrienols in a 50 milligram dose. That's a nice spread. We're a little early in the research to know what the best spread is, and it's probably different from person to person, but you're getting all of the most important components there. And then we get to vitamin K. Now, I talked about AlgaCal Plus having vitamin K2 as MK7. We have more K2 as MK7 here, so another 50 micrograms here. And then you have 4,500 micrograms of K2 as MK4. Now, I mentioned this before, that K2 as MK4 is shorter acting than MK7. In theory, if it was your only vitamin K, you'd have to dose it multiple times throughout the day. Now, here we're only dosing it twice, but it's a bigger amount. And we know that vitamin K2 as MK4 is better at turning on bone building. It's better than MK7. but it just doesn't do it for as long. So that's why we recommend MK7. But you can certainly do both, and that's what they've done here. And then they also have just a little bit of K1. It's not a ton, just 1,000 micrograms of K1 to go along to just fill out the complement of vitamin K, because it is relatively new as far as a supplement. So we're kind of hedging our bets here and giving you all of the different forms of vitamin K. All right, before I get to our third product that I want to talk about in this 2024 update, let me just talk a little bit about our masterclasses. We have 2 free masterclasses that there are descriptions for, or there are links for rather in the description below on YouTube, and you can access these. If you're on a podcast, go to drdouglucas.com, you can get there. But one masterclass is all about bone health. You get to see how we put together a bone health program that's custom, how you could potentially do it yourself with an opportunity to ask questions. And then we also have a hormone masterclass as well. And we talk about sort of the ins and outs of hormones and answer questions related to hormone therapy. Both of these masterclasses are really popular. So grab a seat for these masterclasses if you haven't been to one of those yet. All right, so the third product I want to talk about is strontium. Now, strontium is a controversial one, and I'll tell you why it hits my list of the top 3. And the reason why is because I have a lot of people that come to me that are really, really worried about their bone mineral density. And I totally understand that, because it is ultimately what defines osteoporosis, right? So when it comes to the use of strontium, I've kind of been hot and I've been cold. And I have a whole video on strontium, so I'm not going to dig into all the research here. But the short of it is this, which is there is some fear around strontium because of the experience of strontium ranelate that was used as a pharmaceutical in Europe kind of the last 20 years-ish. It's not available anymore. There was an increased risk of blood clot, some weird syndrome called Rest syndrome, and some other things that went along with it. But understand that strontium ranelate was a synthetic compound, and the ranelate part was the synthetic part. Strontium is a totally natural trace mineral. And as a trace mineral, it is already present in our bones. It's present in our body. It's present in our food supply. We could eat strontium. It's just hard to get because there's not a lot of it in our food supply. And so you can take strontium as a supplement as strontium citrate. That's how it's naturally found. And so strontium citrate then can go into your bones, and it will have an impact, according to research studies, on both osteoblast and osteoclast activity, meaning that it will encourage osteoblasts and it will discourage osteoclasts from doing their job. So it should do this to bone metabolism. We know from a couple of human studies, but also specifically the AlgaCal studies, that when you add strontium to AlgaCal Plus, then you will see improvement in bone mineral density. So we know that strontium will increase bone mineral density. The challenge we have is that there has not been a long enough study done with strontium as a single intervention, strontium citrate, to know that it actually improves fracture risk. Does it actually increase bone quality, or are we just increasing bone density? So we don't really know the answer to that. But again, there are lots of people that are very, very worried about their bone mineral density and would love to see an improvement in their bone mineral density as quickly as they can, and adding strontium will help to do that. Some people will say, well, isn't it just falsely elevating my DEXA? And the answer is, it is going to elevate your DEXA. It's not false, it's real, but strontium is a heavier from an atomic weight perspective than is calcium, and it is utilized similarly in the body. And so, yes, if you're substituting calcium for strontium, yes, your bone mineral density will go up. Is it synthetic? I don't think it's necessarily synthetic. I think we're just seeing what we should expect to see. So I think that we should expect to see that there's going to be a further increase in bone mineral density with strontium than we would expect to see with calcium alone. And that just makes sense. So where do I use this in practice? I use it in practice when people have significantly low BMD. They don't want to use drugs, or I don't think that drugs are a great fit or they're a good candidate for drugs, and we really want to see a more rapid improvement in bone mineral density. I would love to see a great study showing that we are improving bone strength, but we're also doing a ton of other things at the same time that are going to improve their bone strength. So if we want to throw the kitchen sink at it, then I recommend all 3 of these things that we just talked about. So again, we're talking about the strontium component, in addition to AlgaCal Plus, in addition to the D3 Complete. If you were to do all 3 of those things, then I think you are creating a core nucleus of bone-specific products that are going to significantly improve your BMD and do it really from the perspective of overall health span. Something I wanted to mention here too, and the reason why I put them all in one video, is that if you're looking for a money-back guarantee on supplements, which, let's face it, you don't see very often, AlgaCal does offer a money-back guarantee. It's not related to this one, but if you were to put these 2 together, They actually guarantee that you'll see an improvement in bone mineral density. I'm pretty sure it's over 6 months even. And if you don't, they'll give you your money back. Now, I've talked to the company about this and they do stand behind it. And they tell me that they do not end up refunding very many people, like single digits. And so I think it's really promising for most people to understand that these are probably the best products. They're the best research products out there. And if you stack this as your core component from a supplement perspective, then you're in a really good starting point. It helps to eliminate so much of the noise around supplements because there are hundreds of supplements that you could potentially take, right? So these products have research behind them, they are proven, and they offer a money-back guarantee. So that's why I wanted to put them out here to say that if you were looking for 3 things, this is a really, really good starting point. And again, if you want a discount, look in the description below. But remember this, that osteoporosis is not a supplement deficiency problem. While getting the right supplements on board can certainly be helpful, remember that lifestyle components are a huge component of this. That's why we built what we built in optimal bone health. So I think that these are a great starting point, but remember that you have to do all the things. If you watch our videos, we talk about lifestyle, we talk about sleep, we talk about exercise and training and impact and nutrition and the right nutrition. So all of those things matter. That's why we have our optimal bone health program. Don't forget, we also have our Bone Foundations course. And if you haven't gone through that, it is a free course that gives you access to our HealthSpan Nation, which is a really cool weekly support group of people that are helping to elevate each other, asking me questions through a live Zoom. So you can learn about all of those things. Look for the description below for all of those things. And remember that you are actually created for greatness. So seek optimal, not average. Don't be afraid to be extraordinary because you are, and that's what it takes. I'll see you in the next video.